What changes have you seen in Edmonton since the TRC and its 94 calls to action?
For me, the change happened immediately when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission held its national event in Edmonton. It was the first time that I heard non-Indigenous people talk about residential school. It was the first time I saw it on the news. It was the first time it was on the front of the journal. It was the first time that the voices of Indigenous people were actively listened to and respected. And that continues in our city. I think that it's given us a gift to call on settlers to spend more time listening than talking. And I see that happening. I see more Indigenous cultural events happening in our city. I see allies being made at all levels of government. I see organizations making important decisions to include Indigenous voices in their decision-making processes. And only good can come of that. We have a lot of history to make up for, but it can be done on a daily basis with intentional actions like that.
I have to say that since the TRC in Edmonton, I've been quite tired. Really, the truth sets you free and it pisses you off, and there's a point where you go, I'll swear, I don't fucking want to hear about this any fucking more. Enough already. I want to plant my garden. I want to sing my songs. I want to go to the hardware store and get paint stripper and make this wooden thing beautiful. I want to hang out in the river in my canoe with good friends. I want to write poetry and not have everybody think, are you going to address the issue today? So I felt like these guys, like it's been a long road, and I'm going, whew. And I'm young. I mean, I'm old in my family's terms because I'm 50, but I'm young because I'm only 50. I'm like half the way there. I just want to share one little story, and it's not in Edmonton. It's I went to the East Coast to Mi'kma'ki, to my traditional territory, in September of last year. And I was invited there by a professor at UPEI, and because if you're traveling that long way, you kind of have to spread it out. So it became a 3-campus tour. And so I was thinking of Gilligan the whole time. It was a 3-campus tour. But the first stop, I had no idea what I was in for, was at Acadia University. And this is a change that is wrought by the TRC, that Acadia University now has an arts Mawiomi. Mawiomi is a Mi'kmaq word that means a gathering. So it also means a sacred fire. And there are, in our tradition, I've learned since, there are 7 sacred fires that make up our confederacy, but I won't get into that. The point would be there was a sacred fire right square dab in the middle of the Harriet Irving Formal Garden in Wolfville, Nova Scotia. And I arrived in the evening and was taken directly to the fire and introduced to Mi'kmaq elders, some of them from Shubenacadie, some of them part of that suit that got it all rolling, all of them with an incredible gentleness, benevolence, and just hardcore wisdom, because you have to have hardcore wisdom to get old. You have to be really tough to get old. As my mom always says, getting old's not for cowards. But the amount of finagling they had to do to get a fire in the middle of the formal lawns was remarkable. How remarkable I didn't know till the 4th day, when the head of all the grounds came out to the fire. And he ended up sitting beside me, this lovely Caucasian Canadian fellow, and he was so nervous. He was just so nervous about this fire in the middle of his lawn. And he had given the permission, but he was so nervous about it because it symbolized so much to give to the Indians the opportunity to use this land in that way. When he was so clearly, and he talked about it somewhat, so clearly used to, this is how we do it. This is the Harriet Irving Formal Garden. The Irving family paid for this. It's our university, and we're going to let them do this. What if they burn the whole thing down? They might go savage on us. By the time he left the fire, he was so mellow. It just relaxed so much. And I was left with the thought that that could not have happened before the TRC. You know, that would not have happened before the TRC. That happened directly because of the TRC. And all night long, students volunteered to keep that fire for 5 days, well, 4 nights, right? It burned, and on the 5th day, we put it all out. But students took it in shifts to sit with that fire, and the elders took it in shifts to instruct them for as long as people came to the fire. People came to the fire from all over that town. People came who had nothing to do with the Maui-Omi. They just saw the fire. They wanted to be there. I got to hear some incredible stories from people from Mi'kma'ki, from people from across Canada, from people from Hong Kong, from people just coming to a fire. And that's a big change. That we look at our places of higher learning and go, the higher learning that's missing is the knowledge of what Maui-Omi means, is the knowledge of what it means to light a sacred fire and to tend that sucker personally, in person, by hand for 4 days, to commit to making sure you don't burn down the formal lawn, but you make space enough for whoever comes. And that's huge.
That was a great story. I don't have a story, and I'm not sure I really have an excellent answer for this question, because going back to my previous answers, I just feel like my perspective was so radically shifted around the TRC that I'm not really sure. I think I notice it more, so I don't have a baseline, really. I feel like people talk about residential school more. I feel like people are talking about the TRC more. But again, I don't know if it's just because I'm noticing it more. Functional things, I really appreciate the mayor recognizing Treaty 6 territory in most public venues. I think that's a great thing, and maybe a tweak for people to learn more or think about the fact that we are on traditional Treaty 6 territory. I just think there's a lot of other changes that we need to make. So I appreciate Miranda's perspective, that it's positive, and she's in a lot of circles where she sees changes, and I think that's really great. I'm not in those circles, so I don't see those as much. I see the work that we have left to do more, I think, than the changes that have been made.